Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of BornPolitical, Thursday night live here, and I'm excited today because this isn't just a member of the community that means so much to me and should to all of us. As we introduce you to this person, you're going to get to know someone that's on one of our boards, an RTM member, somebody that I met through my daughter a long time ago. She dated his nephew, and we were talking about that off air. That's how we met about 20 years ago. We were talking about off air. I'm not going to beleaguer this because we have a lot to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Shawn Powers. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much.
Member of the RTM. And BornPolitical, I talked off air about what we do here. And I think what's important for our community to know is who is making decisions in our community, who's voting for the new schools or not voting for them, who's fixing potholes or not. And you're a member of the Finance Committee, so we're going to talk about that later. But BornPolitical has a lot to do with you. And I'm going to start off with where were you born? I say we've known each other 20 years, but I don't know where you were born.
Well, up in Hartford.
Born in Hartford?
We lived in Vernon, Connecticut. And
okay.
My father moved us to the beach in East Lyme in '63.
Okay.
My brother still runs our family business.
Yep. And we're going to get to that,
Flavor
too.
King, yep. He's the ice cream man, as everybody knows. And
so did you go to school in Vernon as a
I
kid?
did not. I was only 3 when we moved to the beach. So.
Oh, so you moved down to the beach.
My mother had to teach the nursery school at the church for me to get into school.
Oh, that was it.
She sold real estate, and we went to nursery school.
So people still do that.
Oh, yeah.
You teach at the school where you want your kid to go to, right? And that's how you get the discount or you get your kid in.
I had a very rich life because I was so much younger than everyone in my family. So
okay,
I was either with my parents, my grandparents, or my siblings.
You're the youngest?
I am the youngest.
You are. So BornPolitical is part of, we try to figure out how
we get there.
How you shaped your opinions and who you are. And being the youngest.
That's absolutely right, Joe.
Because being the oldest is completely different than being the youngest. I'm the middle guy.
Yep.
So they say that's probably why I became the politician that I am, because you always kind of
making
2 people happy.
Yep. In my situation, it was more of a learning experience because everyone's so much older than me. And it was like, I didn't get dragged through everything, but I had to excel myself at a different level because I was the youngest. And, respect for my elders, the things that I did with my father, all that. I was just a regular student in school.
Yeah.
I was C student, BC student until 6th grade. And
you took off from there. Did you go to elementary school in Lyme?
No, East Lyme.
East Lyme.
Yep. And when 6th grade came, my mother sat me down and put me at the table and said, "You're going to be the smartest one out of all of us."
There you go.
My grades went from BC to straight A's pretty much.
And that was a decision your mom made for you.
My mother had a way about, taking the magic marker out of your arithmetic or your English paper and marking it up pretty good at 9 o'clock at night and saying, "Sit down and finish."
Okay. So your mom did real estate. And what would your father do?
My dad had the ice cream business, and he delivered oil at Guy's Oil.
You're
over Niantic.
You're a legend.
I'm not a legend.
Before your time that you became his dad. If you guys have bought an ice cream off a truck in New London County, his dad is. I know his brother more.
Yeah.
Because your brother was selling me ice cream when I was 5 years old.
Right, and we used to make fresh ice cream every day. Every day was soft serve like Dairy Queen.
I didn't realize you made your own.
Oh yeah, every day. So when we started, we were up in the fields in Scott's Orchard in East Lyme, and went to Yale to get peaches, and we made fresh ice cream every day for 5 ice cream trucks. Out of our little.
What's the name of the truck? It's Flavor King, right?
It's Flavor King. My brother changed the name when my folks got divorced.
Okay.
He took the business over and he converted it into a different type of business. He wanted to cater. He wanted to run the trucks all year long. He went to hard ice cream. He has some soft ice cream that he goes out and does during the summer months. But the dairy industry changed a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and we used to have a dairy industry in Connecticut, and we no longer have that. And my dad was very much a perfectionist. That's why he was called Doc. He was the doctor of ice cream.
The doctor of ice cream.
And we had an ice cream stand over by the old Waterford Drawbridge in Waterford.
Wow.
It was an A&W root beer place. And
I think
you probably,
it's
I don't know.
I'm
75.
52.
It's a little bit.
In 1975, they closed?
That's correct.
Okay.
We were out of there.
So I would have been a 4-year-old kid.
Which you may have went.
I am a foodie. So I probably maybe.
Your parents may have brought you. You don't even know.
Yeah, they definitely did, probably.
My dad was the kind of guy that he made this thing called a mini cone.
Yeah.
Because we used to do all of New London. Didn't matter what part of New London.
Yeah.
Went to all the projects. We went everywhere.
And then he started me there.
And Nabisco was the cone company. He asked them to make a very small cone so he could put 1 swirl of ice cream on it so that the kids could have ice cream.
Nice.
The babies.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, my father was well respected from his business.
Oh, yeah.
And my brother is
Yeah.
So, he came from a very working class family.
So you're in 6th grade. Your mom sits you down. You get
Yeah.
better at school instantly, and off to.
It was a lot of work. It wasn't instant.
Yeah,
Okay?
everything's a lot of work.
That's right.
I'm joking. Wait, so now where did you go to? You went to high school? You didn't.
I
go
only
to
went to high
Eastline?
school 1 year, Eastline 1 year. I graduated from Eastline, but
Yep.
I had a full scholarship, an academic scholarship to a private boarding school up in Thompson, Connecticut. So I spent 3 years up there living away from home.
The
and-
quiet corner.
Yep,
Ish.
absolutely.
Where the racetrack is.
Yep. The Heenings owned it. They went to school with us.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different connections. So I know that part of the state because I spent 3 years up there. So you lived at the school. You didn't come home.
Yep.
So-
Which is weird for a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, I was 14 when I went, and it was an experience. I didn't like it when I started, and, when things happened, you
Yep.
went through it, and halfway through it, my folks got divorced, so that's when
Everything
things
changes.
changed.
Yep.
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 And, we'll talk a little bit about that when you're
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
to discuss that. And, I've been in this community since '97. Kristen and I bought a property over here, and we fixed it up, and
Yep.
we live right across from the Coast Guard Academy, and it's
awesome.
we're very happy to come.
So,
Full
right
circle
out of
and
high
come out
school,
here.
did you go to college right away, or did you?
I
not go to
did.
college?
I went to college, and I quit after one semester.
I never made it to the first semester.
Well,
So.
They were building the Trident. So it goes back to the ice cream days. I told my father I always wanted to know what went on down in the yard there.
Yeah.
Because there was 30,000 people that ran out, and half of them got ice cream from us. And I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to know what went on there. And he says,
Yeah.
oh, you don't go there unless there's a war.
Yeah.
Okay, they build submarines down there, and they protect the country.
Yeah.
So the Trident submarine was being built at that time, and I thought it was a very important thing that I became a part of that. I thought it was, it was the first ballistic launching pad underwater. It was our first line of defense, and the boat was enormous.
Incredible.
It was an incredible thing to be a part of.
So you're still a young kid,
Yeah,
teenager,
19.
in the yard with 30,000 people. That was, let's face it, the reputation for the yard back then was not as stellar as it is today.
Yes,
it just was a different yard back then.
It was
Ship-
1979.
1979,
We lived a
I
whole different
remember
life, right?
The whole don't drive in front of EB and expect to move your car or be flipped over. They were rowdy. Obviously, it's a different workforce now, but as a young person walking into EB, it's probably intimidating or almost or not intimidating. Or what was your feeling walking in that yard as a it was.
I was lucky. I went to the Ambit Pipe Fitting School, which I believe we still have over in Groton here.
Yeah, 777
Right, so
pipe fitters.
Exactly
Yeah.
what I was. I came out as a pipe fitter, and I did about 9-10 months there. And when I left, I wanted to go to work at NASA at Cape Canaveral.
Really?
So I took off, and
Down to Florida.
I did.
Oh, so you didn't actually? Did you? End
I
up
stayed
working
there.
In the
Yeah,
yard?
we did. I did
You
work
did?
in the yard for 9 months.
Oh, 9 months in the yard.
And I went around for 3 months before we launched the Trident, because I'm not going to give away top secret.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you launch the boat, you have a lot of end caps that you got to put on, a lot of piping systems.
Yeah.
So I ran around that boat, and it was like a jungle.
Yeah.
Because it was 3 stories high. It was just, you were up, front, back, rear.
Yeah. I don't think.
I was
people-
little Joe. I could get in places
They
that nobody
wanted
could
you.
get in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get the little guy to squeeze in there, and but that's still what they do today. There's places where hands can't reach that are too big and to get into places. So they still have those crews, I know. But for me, I always worked at like the biggest company I ever worked at was maybe 35 or 40 people. Mm-hmm. And then even thinking about going to the yard, it's like, there's just a lot of personalities, a lot of stuff. And I think I obviously probably would have adapted like we do anywhere.
You do.
But it's just a humongous place.
But you're a worker, see. That's,
Yeah,
and so you would always adapt. And I don't think, I think boarding school prepared me in a lot of different ways to being independent. I was youngest, so I had to learn to do a lot of things on my own. And I really truly believe that when you are young, you can adapt to the situations. And I believe that, even the 10 years difference we have between our age groups, that generation that I lived in, we were at the end of the boom.
Yeah.
So we learned and adapted because we were given a lot of different responsibilities at a much younger age. So let's even like traveling to Florida.
Yeah.
I was
And
down
how
there
long-
for
how
9
long were you
months.
down there? Oh, 9 months.
Yeah, somebody was supposed to, I was going to be a mail courier there because EB had given me security clearance.
Yeah.
It was when they were working on the space shuttle. And I didn't get the job because someone's son dropped out of school. So I was out, and at that point in time, I had played baseball at boarding school, and
Yeah.
I needed to go down and sow my oats and see if I was any good. So
Yeah.
I
Did
could
you
have
play
went.
ball down there?
I didn't play organized ball, but it was funny because I was scouted again down there. But
Well, Florida's big in baseball, and if you were going to make it back in those days, you had to go down to Florida anyway.
yeah, and it wasn't just me. Look,
Yeah.
I played on a team that was phenomenal when we
Yeah.
played Legion ball, and,
Well,
half a dozen guys.
East Lyme Legion,
Niantic.
Niantic Legion.
Yeah.
And so I remember those teams because the teams in front. That's when you played when Legion was absolutely like
It was it.
almost major league level, as at least for this area.
My brother played it.
There wasn't the Cape Cod League.
No, there wasn't a wooden bat league. None of that.
It was everything. Everything went through there, and I remember that. I mean, we had Brian McCarter that I remember that was unbelievable.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
the London Legion was really good.
It was very hard to, when I grew up, it was very hard to get any kind of baseball athlete out of this area.
Yeah.
And they've done a fantastic job here. I
They
mean,
have.
we have a diamond in the rough for professional athletes coming out of southeastern Connecticut that many people don't really know about it. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not national news. Let's put it that way. But we've been very fortunate, as you know.
Yeah.
Your son was
Yeah.
a great ball player. I mean, we got Matt Walker. I mean, we can
Yeah.
go. I mean, Mike Walker, Matt Walker. We got
Yeah. Matt
Harvey, I mean,
Jesse Hahn.
right.
The list
We can
goes
go
on and
on, right?
You can.
We can. The football players are the
A.J.
same,
Dillon
right?
is over
And
at
Dubose
Green Bay
played,
Packers.
right? I mean, so, just for one little enclave of people, for the size schools and the things that we do here, we do have a lot of great things going on in southeastern Connecticut.
I think that's almost indicative of not just in baseball and sports, but to think of what our impact is on the world just based on the work we do here.
Correct.
I get to see it more and more when you realize that that you're building a nuclear submarine that's basically the peacekeeping, the ultimate
Absolutely,
peacekeeping
Joe.
machine on planet. And most people don't look at it that, even people that live here, but the more that I'm involved with it, the more I see it.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to you though, because you went to Florida and came because you have a long work history.
Yeah, I
You've been
do.
working for a really long time. You came back from Florida, or did you go somewhere else
I
first?
did. I came back from Florida, and then I went to work for the state of Connecticut. I worked in the state military department as a maintainer at the governor's camp in Niantic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I spent 7.5 years there.
Yeah.
I want to say a little bit over halfway through it, I started my recovery from
Yep.
addiction and
Yep.
alcoholism and drugs. I went to work at Millstone and spent 13 years there.
I did 4 shutdowns at Millstone, a couple
So,
of years.
and I
Yep.
went from basically cleaning contamination as a decon technician through an evolution of being a junior mechanic, running a fire watch with another. There was 4 of us when they implemented the fire watch program over there. I stayed working as much as I could. I did building service work. I traveled to CY, and I came back to Millstone. So it was repetitive. I left the state job, and after that, we went on with my own business. In between time, I built houses and worked with my friends if there was any layoffs. And
I think that's why we have so much in common. You and we sit down and talk, and at the end of a meeting, we'll talk and make the meeting go another 2 hours usually. Or it's
have our own
kind of
personal meeting,
Yeah, it's
right?
kind of a habit we have after these meetings. But a lot of our experiences are similar, in life and what have you. And I really, you see it, especially as a finance chair.
Yeah.
I see that your experience comes out in the way you address things and speak to the other people. I really want to thank you on air anyway, and not just you, your
The
whole
whole
finance
committee
committee,
and the whole RTM
the
and
whole
the town
RTM.
council.
It's
Absolutely.
bipartisan. It was
Very
a
good.
great work, and people that really don't know, there's been different monies have been awarded for addiction. One was the opiate settlement, which was blood money. It's a lawsuit that was won. And then we have the marijuana funds, which didn't have to come to us. But we have a community now, and this is what I think is important. When someone like you, and it's not just about your recovery, it's your whole entire work and life experience that gives you the common sense to know where you think things should happen and what could work. And your work really was to me so important in getting Community Speaks Out the money. And you had asked after the meeting, you wish you could do more for Community Speaks Out. I reminded you what you have done for us, and it's not even steering or pushing. It was just explaining to people that are in the group what we do and what it means to you.
Yeah, it means a lot to me personally, but more importantly, it means so much to our community. And I want to thank everyone on my finance committee. All the representatives. Representative Chase,
Yep.
Representative Gardner, Representative Scott, Representative Fritchie, Norman, Representative Massett. Everybody brought their questions. You guys came to us. This is the beauty of what you're doing, is you're answering questions that everyone has in our community and address those questions for those financing. But what's the most important part is your response is immediate to the community. And I think that's the biggest point that everybody in the room understood, Joe, is that, I know you at a different level than everyone else does maybe. But to have that response to everyone that needs help is a very, very difficult task. I mean, my wife and I have done some recovery help for individual people. But to be in the community so that someone picks up the phone and you're the hotline to being able to go out there and help them and to do the 13 steps and to have the support that you have from the community as all nonprofit volunteers. You're not getting paid for this, and you're benefiting our community. And I think the thing you said at our meeting that was very heartwarming to me was that there's 176 people that you helped last year, which is to me an incredible number. Yeah. Because I have, like I said, I could talk for hours about this subject. We had a friend of mine's brother just come out, and he's getting better, but it's like the whole state process. There's so many loopholes, so many different things, and this is immediate.
Yeah.
You find them, you place them, you help them. You do the Narcan stuff, you do the Narcan stuff. You do all of these things that no one in the community sees because they're not involved in it.
Yeah, and I think
it's hard. It's hard to understand if you're not addicted.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's not any fault of anyone else. I don't want anybody to be addicted. You get what I'm saying? But to have that support is so important, and it's immediate, and that's the biggest part.
And what was important to me, and what's impacted me was from the very first time I got involved in politics, it was on the RTM, and it had a lot to do with a sports issue. My daughter's basketball team, they were told at 12 years old that they didn't keep score. I watched the game. It was the first half. It was 8-9, and it was actually, it was at the level of 9-12 at that time wasn't great and polished, but it was 9-10, and there was going to be a winner, and the outcome, someone was going to be happy, someone wasn't. At halftime, they ended it and erased the score, and I ran over to remind them what the score was. I thought they accidentally erased it. They said they didn't want the kids to know who won. I reminded them at 12 years old, these kids know how to do math. Like if you had 8 in the first half and 10 in the second half, and I said, how do I change that? And my friend Liz Duarte said, well, get on the RTM, and I became the chairman of the Park and Rec. Much like what
we all started there. We all started Park and Rec.
So and then we had a meeting. And I said, I think overall, and I'm not the most competitive guy. I don't cry when I lose. I don't cry. I want to win, but it doesn't break me. So I'm not that guy. But I was also the guy that thought that we should teach our kids how to win and also how to lose. It's important lessons. Yep. So I saw the power that I got on there, and that I could change something, that I could go talk to people and say, hey, I think this should be better. It's powerful, but it's also, that's why I said when we elect people and talk to people, we want to make sure that their message kind of aligns with us or our feelings. And they don't have to be perfectly aligned. We just have to know that, you know what, I know Shawn's a good guy, and we may not vote exactly the same on everything, but I think his heart and his mind and I know his common sense is going to bring him to somewhere in the area where it would be.
Right.
And it's government.
It's like anything. It's like when we get things from the town council, and not everybody really understands how our government works. And, I've heard comments about, we don't really do anything here when it comes to the budget session and things like that. And I don't agree with that. But that's not to say I don't listen to what people have to say.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's like those councilors made that choice. Town Councilor Jacome was on my finance committee.
Yes.
And took the seat on the council. Okay, and came down and gave us a report about why the funding was to be initially given to your group as a nonprofit. And I think when everybody sits at the table, and this is the beauty of our form of government, is we listen.
Yep.
And the hardest thing sometimes is when you become overly passionate about what you're doing, and then to be consumed by it. And I think that's not always the best way to approach things.
It's not.
And all in all, this whole subject of Community Speaks Out was taken in context with everybody on the same page.
Yep.
And how much it impacts our community, just like with the sub memorial.
Yeah, the sub.
It's like.
And you got, well, so we can talk about that a little because
We
you voted
did,
on that also.
correct.
In the very same night, just so you know, the RTM Finance Committee, well, most people don't understand how our government works. So the council approved it, these 3 items, and we, as a group, got to sit down. And first of all, there was a member of our board that was there, and we prepared, and we came ready to talk about all the numbers and everything that we've done. But the Finance Committee had dug so deep as a group and individuals that they almost explained everything that we were doing. We said nothing, not a word.
You said a lot. Trust me. The presentation was phenomenal.
Chairman Powers called for a vote because he didn't feel like discussion was needed, and it passed unanimously in a bipartisan way.
Very much.
Even on the floor of the RTM, I think there were 3 that maybe 1 or 2 against, and then one abstained. And even those folks, I think, they saw the value, but maybe they weren't comfortable with whatever it was. We saw support, right? And that's what we want to see. And what a resounding, like, for us to go to other towns now. We're going to take that little road show, and not that we're going to ask for money from Thompson, because we talked about going to Thompson. We just want to make sure that money's getting spent in the right way. Mm-hmm. And like we said, even if they give it to a group up in Thompson, that trickles down and helps us, because we're helping folks from up there. We want to make sure that the money's getting spent right, but just to see that, and that's why I don't think people can understand that. Oh, he's the finance committee chair on the RTM. Well, what's that do? Well, really, to me, was largely responsible for supporting a community group like ours and other things. Like, so now the Navy subsale, like.
Absolutely. I think for our community and the things that we provide both to the sub base,
yeah,
and to EB and to Pfizer's, and we have a real community where I truly believe the memorial is going to be a centerpiece for what we're doing in town. It's in front of the library, in front of a very public place, in front of the senior center. I mean, it's going to be as large as the submarine itself. It's a beautiful drawing. I recommend everyone to look at our webpage.
And buy a brick.
Well, we're not going to sell anything tonight,
we can't
okay?
sell anything,
but it's the point I'm trying to make
Yeah.
is that we have a really unique community here, and that was one of the things that drew me to this community. Yeah. That and the fact that we have a public utility. And
I want you to tell the story that you told off air. And it was a 9/11 story. You were working on your house,
yes.
and I think this kind of ties into who we are and what we are as a community. But you just told it was the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
So,
on the day 9/11 happened, I'm an early riser, and my wife works in the hospital, and she called me up, and we were working on my house at the time. We were doing a front dormer so I could see the water, and we were doing the roof, and a friend of mine was helping me. He flew him in from California because business was booming. Everybody was working, and he had just gotten done doing some work, God rest his soul, on the casinos when they were building malls inside the casinos. Very talented carpenter, Tim Greenwood. And so Tim and I were up on the roof. Kristen called. We went down. We watched the second plane hit the second tower. And we went back on the roof, and we were just kind of in awe. And I'm going to tell you something. The response of the Navy and our military that day was incredible to me, and I had worked in the military department, so I knew, there's an order to everything. I think it was like 4 or 5 subs we watched take off. My house is right on the hill between Military Highway and Route 12, and people, these guys, they left their families. These are the things that we don't understand because we're not part of that. They left their families, not knowing where they were going to go. We were under attack, okay? 4 or 5 subs go out. It couldn't have happened in 45 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, we get in the car to go drive around because it's like, what's going on now? What's going on in town? Yep. Get in my truck. We go down the street. We're going underneath the bridge where Mohawk is now.
Yep.
The dry dock people.
Yep.
There's SEALs and looking for ordnances all over the bridge. I mean, we were under attack. And that day, we heard the Warthawks come from up at Bradley. You could hear the jets going down to New York. I mean, we live in a very special area, and in this community, we are very lucky to have all of those things there. That's besides the airport. We don't even utilize the airport the way we could.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
and I hope in our debates and continue to move forward with the town of Groton that we're able to incorporate the airport into a better community for everybody, not just us, southeastern Connecticut. So.
And that's the AVCRAT is actually there now.
That's correct. It's been there since I worked for the state.
Exactly. And AVCRAT is so important and so vital. I mean, they're maintaining and fixing these helicopters. for us to actually dissect our area and understand how intertwined we are with the military and what a short distance Sikorsky is from here to there.
It is.
And we have people that live, your next door neighbor, even though Sikorsky may sound far to you.
It's not.
We have a lot of people that drive from Groton to Sikorsky
That's
to
right.
work every single day. And that's your story off here, to me, that because especially with the submarine memorial, we want to make sure that everyone understands that it's memorializing everyone, because
that's
we talk
correct.
about these war memorials, and this is more of a memorial to the people that serve on them first and foremost, but the ones that build, maintain, and then what
Live and
really
work,
is
the
important,
community, all of the
Exactly.
businesses. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's a very, in my opinion, it's like one of the cornerstones of what we're doing to build our community in a very positive direction. And I really think that, Representative Courtney has done a wonderful job.
Yes.
I think, Senator Blumenthal, all of these people, all politics aside, because this isn't about politics. This is about how we're doing, not financially, but for our country, for all of us. Yes, finances are the most important thing that every one of us lives with. We have to live within our means. But we live in a very defense-oriented facility here. We had, like I said, the nuclear power industry, generating a power and things like that is so critical, especially if we're going to go to electric cars. Yeah. So, being at Millstone for the years that I was at Millstone, doing that work was, in my opinion, those were the challenges. And when we go back to how did I get to where I am today, I'm very lucky that I had the opportunity to do this. And this was all centrally located in the area that I grew up with. And
I feel like
is
sometimes
special.
I feel like an alien in my own area.
Well, there's so much more to do.
Yeah, I've worked in some place, like you mentioned, the cover, the head on the nuclear. I was on the crew that changed that. They took the one out, brought it out, and that was old, and brought the new one in, and almost
For the subs?
no at Millstone.
Oh, so
The
you worked
actual-
the outage for the reactor head replacement?
Yes, I was there, and I was on a composite crew that they put a bunch of different people together. So
So
even
Joe
when
got
you-
some radiation.
Yeah, got a little bit of radiation to me. I don't know if it was good or bad, but in the end, though,
It's okay.
I'm
still here.
When I first got ready, and you're preparing, and they're going through all this, you're basically going to radiation school to try to figure out what you can and cannot do, and to understand where you're working and what the hazards are. And in my mind, I kept thinking, why are they teaching me all this? Like, I'm not going to be next to the nuclear reactor. I'm not. And guess what?
You were.
you walk in and you're looking down in
You
the
have
fuel
to,
pool.
right.
So
You
there's-
like that purple pool,
the
that
purple glow
magenta
and
glow
the
from the
magenta.
reactor, yeah.
So, but those are things that I think the same thing happens with a young Navy kid. You're 18. You're like, why are you teaching me how to fight a fire on a boat with all this? I mean, those are intense. We work
Training.
on trainers,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
intense for people.
That's
but,
right.
Back to you. I mean, everything that you've done, and to be on the RTM and to be in position you're in right now, to be able to vote on something like a school and get it
Yes.
approved,
Yeah.
to know that there's going to be a young family member of a Navy person that came here that didn't know anybody in our town, and it's important to do the good work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Joe.
It's
Thank
really
you very,
important.
very much. Well,
It really is.
You did wonderful things as our state rep. You and
Thank
Chris
you.
Connolly. I mean,
Yeah.
look, all things aside, we're very much with our state. I think our state is in a lot better state of finances and everything else. Everybody complains about the finances. We
getting
keep moving forward. And you know
I
what?
told you that we were going to run out of time fast, and we're
Yeah,
done.
yep,
I will have him back on when something else is coming up. But guys, thank you guys. It's Thursday now. I'll see you next Thursday. Shawn, thank you for being on the show. This was great. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
And I'll have you back, man.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Joe.
man.
Best of luck.